Hello everyone. Okay, first of all, big thanks to Becky for sorting out the lighting here. It's making, as I say, this video look a bit clearer, and hopefully this means we can get a bit better quality moving forward. Like I say, I'm not an expert on these things, so I always appreciate it when people help us out like that, so thank you very much. So this week is the second of two suggested videos by Dion Powell Jr., and this is on the topic of shared universes. So the idea is these characters kind of come together, and originally each of them have their own little corner, and they all come together. So we did a poll, and we went Marvel, DC, Sonic, and other. It was on a Twitter poll, so we could only put so many. And Nicholas Webb, one of our artists, suggested OK, Let's Be Heroes, which, to be fair, I've only seen bits of that cartoon, but I see where he's coming from. It's got a similar energy, similar references. Yeah, and I'm sure if I sort of sat down and watched it, I'm sure I'd enjoy it. But unsurprisingly, Marvel won the poll because, popular. Now, if you were going to be smart, you could say, well, what Marvel universe? Because you've got the cinematic universe, the cartoons, and the comics. So, so for the sake of simplicity, we're going to look at, I think we're going to look at, how a universe develops, and then kind of talk about how I'd incorporate the Reynard City characters into a universe. So, when we talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's probably the best example because they had time. They put in about, I think it's like 10 years. There's a long period. There's about 13 odd films. And for the most part, it makes sense. For the most part, things fit, things kind of go in a logical progression, and things have impacts here and there, but there's enough self-contained stories that it doesn't feel too formulaic. And of course, there are formulaic elements of Marvel, so the brand of humour, the big thing in the sky, and there are various tropes that I'm sure if you had your bingo card out you could spot. However, where I think they've been clever in that they have adjusted the formula, so for example, Ant-Man is more of a comedy heist film, Doctor Strange has kind of supernatural, wizardry, fantastical with some slightly horror elements, which was quite cool. Obviously Thor Ragnarok was just a nutty camp 80s Flash Gordon nuttiness that was lots of fun, albeit sometimes a bit too going into the weird kind of comedy aspect. But I still loved it. It's just there were a couple of moments where I was like, okay, I can't help feeling that a non-comedy director wouldn't have made a joke at that point. But like I say, that's a minor point. And this is just it. When you do this kind of movie world, everything has to balance out, and that is the tricky bit. The tricky bit is, how these characters interact with each other, how these characters relate, what's the kind of hierarchy with it. So, for example, a good example is with Spider-Man Homecoming, where Iron Man, in effect, sort of becomes this kind of distant pseudo-celebrity mentor figure, kind of like The Apprentice, and Spider-Man has to kind of get used to be a hero. And for me, I can help thinking like there's a kind of sneaky subtext in there, as if like Marvel's patting Sony on there and just like, this is how you do it properly, guys. Which is harsh because Spider-Man films, there's been some terrific Sony Spider-Man films, So I wouldn't get too harsh on Sony. Yeah, don't get me wrong, they outside of Spider-Man and with some Spider-Man films, they have made some big mistakes. But this is the thing. I do think sometimes people act like, ooh, Marvel never do anything wrong. It's like, this is where we talk about the downside of the shared universe. So, for example, Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2 is not a bad film. However, it's not a great film. Because the original Iron Man was a self-contained film. It had more of a sense of satire. It felt more grounded. But then the second one, it felt like it was setting something up, and setting Black Widow into it. It didn't quite work for me. And with Iron Man 3, again, not a bad film. This is the crucial thing to remind you. But it's messy, if you look into the sort of production history of Iron Man 3, you'll see why. But I don't want to get into that too much. But the point is, these are kind of blips on the road. So as sort of Marvel sort of progress, they seem to build on the criticisms people make and they kind of tailor it accordingly. Or they seem to have a sense of, okay, people seem to not want to go for this, let's change it up a bit. Or, like I would say, being very bold. So, for example, I wasn't a big fan of the original Captain America. I mean, it was perfectly fine. It was a bit of a romp and it was done reasonably well. I mean, there was nothing wrong with it. But the second film, The Winter Soldier, it added this layer of intrigue and paranoia and gave an interesting dilemma with the character, which is how would this character react in this situation when everything they know has changed? And the thing is, they don't make him out to be an idiot. It's not like California Man, where he gets confused and rips the TV out and that kind of thing. He's not stupid, and it's about values and kind of what you've lost as much as what isn't this wonderful and all this technology? Oh, wow! It's also, well, there's a whole undercurrent that I'm not comfortable with, and I have to kind of deal with how the world and the politics of this world has changed. And of course that then builds into Civil War, where, aside from the massive airport superhero mashup fight, which is terrific, I'm not dissing that at all, but there's also this kind of undercurrent of you need to be responsible for what you're doing, and there's kind of ramifications for what you're doing. Which is cool. I mean, again, Civil War, my personal problem with Civil War, and people talk about the Marvel villain issue. The Marvel villain issue I have with Civil War, I love Daniel Bruhl as an actor. If you haven't seen it, see Goodbye Lenin, see Rush. Incidentally, also brilliant performance by Chris Hemsworth. He's terrific, and I really love him. He didn't seem a strong enough villain for me. I get what they were doing, it's interesting, but just because I get it and just because it's interesting, I kind of felt like you're having this massive setup. You kind of needed something a bit more. That's the thing. Now, of course, you don't want to go too far the other way, and I get it, and I get that you don't want the massive CGI God thing, and DC have over-egged that particular pudding, and I get that. It's totally fair enough. There's got to be a ground in between. And again, this was a similar thing I had with Tomb Raider, whereby it's like you're building up to this big thing, and it's like, you need something a bit bigger. So, I don't know what the solution is to that. I'm not claiming I've got the solution to that, but I would say somewhere in between manipulative bloke with glasses and wacky supersized God thing, there's got to be a happy medium. And I suspect Thanos will be that, and it was all part of the Feige game plan all along. So it wouldn't surprise me, and I'm looking forward to Infinity War, same as anyone else. And to be fair, Black Panther, terrific villains in that. You've got to give credit where it's due. And in Coogler's case, that was terrific writing. So now we come up to the next point, which is how we would fit Reynard City into the Marvel Universe. Now, I'm going to cheat on this because we didn't specify in the poll what Marvel Universe I would put the Reynard City characters in. Now, don't get me wrong, I would absolutely love it if we joke with this on the Echo Girl Twitter account, where she sort of needles people about getting an end credit scene and all the rest of it. But there is a cartoon that I absolutely loved, and I want to give a shout out actually, because she interacts with me on Twitter sometimes, and I think she's awesome. Colleen O'Shaughnessy voices Wasp in that show, which is Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And if you haven't seen that, it's a terrific animated show, and I think it deserves attention, because don't get me wrong, I adored X-Men when it was out, the Batman original one. I think Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes is really good as well. Terrific voice acting. But yeah, Colonia Shaughnessy, like as Wasp, was one of my favourite characters. Now, why do I keep mentioning her? Because I think AK Girl and Wasp would be an awesome double act. Like, I would have like a one-off episode with those two doing something together, because I could just imagine them bickering and messing about and having fun with each other. Whereas Miss Marvel, or Captain Marvel as she's known in the comics now and in the next film, would probably get on better with Wonder Vixen, as they're both very sort of driven, very sort of complex characters, and both very kind of organised. So again, I mean, this is the crucial thing, again, when we're talking about shared universes. So say, for example, you want to do one with somebody else for a fanfic, or you've got original characters. What you've got to remember is try and balance it as much as possible, but equally look for the conflict, look for the similarities, look for the differences, and try and find some way of a common thread or something that brings them together. Like, you don't want to, say, nerf a particular character. Like, oh, you know, that person's villain is nothing compared to my one. It's like, there is that danger, I think, sometimes, especially with like role play and that, where you want to kind of prove yourself, and it's like, don't do that. Because I think any balanced character needs to have strengths, they need to have weaknesses, and equally, like, the character in terms of their personality is important. So you need to kind of look at how that works, and as with any story, it's beginning, middle and end. So when you are creating a shared universe, so like I say, on DeviantArt there's lots of brilliant people coming up with their own characters, coming up with their own stories. And like I say, I mean, I've talked about Marvel because Marvel is a good example, but, you know, there's lots of great creativity out there. But, you know, you could find different ways to incorporate into different stories. And you don't necessarily need to have your characters the same in a person's story as in your own one. So, for example, Kendall Collins, another person I want to shout out, you know, did some brilliant fan art of his characters dressed as the Reynard City characters. So in that universe, Reynard City could just be a fictional thing that people watch. That's possible, you know. Or, like I say, in another fictional universe, like I say, there could be mates. In another fictional universe, it could be any number of things. You know, I mean, this is the great thing about fanfic and original character stories. You can create your own stuff, and I think it's easy to look down on that, but I think anything that kind of gets creativity going and gets you thinking about stuff, brilliant, awesome. And so, yeah, so that is my tip, I think, with shared universes. And also, you know, plan stuff out, talk to people. You've got Twitter, you've got message boards, you've got private messaging, you've got any number of ways that you can communicate with each other to make that interesting. So anyway, I think we've pretty much covered that. I mean, but if you've got any further questions so that we can do a follow-up video, by all means comment below. It's absolutely fine. Also, quick reminder, deadline 1st of May, we're doing a merchandise design contest. I mean, I say design, equally, if you just have an idea and say, well, this thing would be really cool, that's fine. You don't necessarily need to draw it, but we've got someone who does marketing for, I think social media specifically, for Grief on Coffee. Her name is Belinda Brown, and she will be judging it. Because with all our contests, we always pick someone who's neutral, just so they can look over it and, in effect, play fair. So that, you know, you can't really say, well, you like that person more than the other. Well, no, because we picked someone who sort of knows what we're doing, but enough so that they can be neutral. So there you go. Anywho, I think that covers everything. Also, we will have a preview on the website soon of Reynard City Chronicles. We had someone message us about when is it coming out, and I thought I'd been quite clear about this, but to be 100% sure, it will be out, I'm hoping, July. It depends on when the artists can complete it. We're about 12 pages away, and the first 6 pages have been lettered, but as I say, we still need to get the last bits of the artwork, the last bits of inking and colouring done. But what you've got to bear in mind, this is a 40-page graphic novel. Our plan is to do one a year, rather than the 22-page issues that we did, like with the last series. One, because it gives the artists more time. Two, because, one bit of feedback we got was that a lot of people felt that the story could have been stronger, and so we wanted to explore the characters more, and therefore we want to build on what people have suggested. And I'm confident that once it's out, people will realise where all that extra effort went into. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I want to see it as well, and it's that horrible thing of I'm impatient as much as anyone else, and I feel sorry for the people working on it, because I do want to get it out there as much as anyone, but equally you want it to be good. And we, hand on heart now, I promise you, when you see this when it's done, and like I say, there will be a preview soon, you'll see where that effort went. But again, any questions, shoot them below. We can do follow-up videos on any number of things. Equally, we're going to link to the other videos. And if you see something in the other videos and you say, well, I want to know more about this issue or that issue, or what about this? And if you have any other suggestions, go for it. Have a chat. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, and have a great day.